Hey, what's happening? Before we jump into the show, I wanted to see if you had any music on a hard drive. You have a band, you have a project, and you want to self-release your own music. Well, there's an easy way to do it. You can go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate and go get your music up on all the streamers. You keep 100% of your royalties, and you can get 30% off by using this code. It's a great, easy way to get your music up on the streamers and share it with your fans, your friends, your family, your mom, your dog, everybody. Everyone wants to hear it. But go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate, HYPHENATE, and send me the link. I want to hear it too. Send your mom the link. Send your dog the link. They all want to hear it too. Welcome to Hyphenate Halftime with me, your host, Randy Randall, for today, March 3rd. I'm joined, as always, with my ever-excited co-host, Mr. Aaron Farley. How do you do this morning, Mr. Aaron Farley?
I'm ever excited, for sure. I'm feeling it today.
Oh, good.
I'm here. It's about to snow maybe up here, so I got my jacket on.
That's a good thing, right, for the mountain people? You like the snow? Or it presents challenges?
I'm always into it.
Yeah. That's what it's supposed to do. It's its natural state.
That's why I buy the slightly more beefy tires. That's really the only thing. It's like you got to have beefy tires, and you have to have a generator just in case.
That's what makes you a snow person or a mountain
that's
person.
about it. Yeah.
Although I don't have beefy tires and a generator, so I'm not. I don't qualify for the mountain.
You live in the flat. You're a flatlander.
Oi, Flatlander.
Yeah, it's Flatlander. Yeah, we're mountain people now.
Hey.
We think about these things.
Oh my God. It's incredible.
It is funny, but if you're a true mountain person, you also actually don't have a generator because you just use your fireplace.
Oh, whoa. And
you're fine. There's a ton of people who are up here. Like we had a big power outage because when the fires were happening, they shut our power for like 3 days just in case. And there were a bunch of neighbors who were like, oh yeah, you guys have a generator. I'm like, you've lived here for 30 years. You don't have a generator? They're like, I just never got one. Like we got one before we moved here. On the way up, we stopped by Harbor Freight and got a $700 generator because we were so freaked out. They were like, "Oh my God, we're moving to the woods. You have to have a generator." And we've used it now a total of like 4 days in 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So just when you have it, you usually don't need it.
You feel better about just knowing that it's there.
Yeah, I walk by it every day in the garage and I'm like, man, we're prepped. We are prepared.
Ready for anything. Living off the grid.
Yes. 100%.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, I wanted to say happy birthday again. You had a great birthday party. Just
thank you.
Days ago.
It was fun.
Fun. Jesus.
I was thinking about it afterwards, and I'm like, it should have been a dual birthday party because your birthday was actually more closer to my birthday party. Yeah. My birthday party was 2 weeks from the event, and your birthday was right in the middle between the birthday and the party. So we should have doubled up.
I was happy to celebrate you. Yeah, I've always it's a funny one having parties. It's like I feel really like since the pandemic, it's been a funny one of just going out in public and just seeing people. Yeah, it's like, well, like I know people, like we talk all the time, or we talk, or like online, and you interact with your kind of virtual community. But even going out and seeing people in the real life, it's like, whoa. It's so weird. Yeah. Everybody's older. Everyone has gray hair. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah. And getting to the point where everybody has like 3 hours off on a Friday. That was the most surprising. I was like, okay, we're going to ask all these people, but we'll probably get 50% because the other 50 will be like, oh, we have to go out of town because the kid has volleyball or
always something,
or we've got there's a show or we're going camping or whatever. And it was like, oh no, it was like 80%. You
found the right Friday to have it.
I guess so. We lucked out. We rented the weird back room at that felt like kind of an old Midwestern kind of
dive
bar a little
in
bit.
the back of a giant pool hall. It was amazing.
The pool hall, when you walked out into that middle room, it was this place in Glendale, right on the strip of Glendale, like right across the street from the Galleria, basically. And I first walked in because we rented that little room, but just off, like seeing photos off the internet, because it was kind of the only place, and had a bunch of pool tables and stuff. And so we're like, God, I don't know what we're walking into, because we didn't see the photos of the rest of the bar.
Yeah.
So then when I came in and I walked in, I was like, oh my God, is it that huge open room? I thought we got our own little room. And I saw that big room, and there were all these people playing pool, and the ceilings are like 30 feet tall, and there's a like a sound system, and they're like, table number 32, your Jim and Jenny, your pool table's ready, and like it just seemed like you were at a, I don't know, like a big fish and chips place or something.
Bowling alley or something.
Yeah, it's a bowling alley. Yeah. Bowling alley is a perfect way to put it. And then there's just this little curtain in the back, and you walk back and you're like, oh, it's this like little tiny room that is like a dive bar.
Yeah,
it was fun.
And you had
its own little
bartender.
bar.
Yeah, it was great. And they make all the bar food from up front.
Bathrooms in kitchen. There and everything.
Yeah, it was perfect. No, I loved it. That was super fun. It was good to see so many friends too.
Yeah, and I was really like the happiest, just because I felt the same as you. It's like almost everybody in there I had like internet conversations with, or like commenting on the posts on Instagram and like, how's it going? But so many people just hadn't talked to or like had a physical conversation with in years. So it was great to just sit down and have like 15, 20 minute or 10, 20 minute conversations. Yeah. It was awesome.
I know. I was telling you that the event too. Like, I was like, well, I talk to you every week. Like, I feel bad. I feel like you have to like go mingle with other people. I don't want to. Yeah. Then you and I end up like having a half of a podcast at the end of the bar just to ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
We just save all this. This is just what we do anyway. That's what we do.
We should be recording this. Wait
a second. Why are we doing this for free?
I'm used to talking to you when one of us is kind of like glitching back and forth. It's weird. Yeah.
Max Headroom style. It's so weird to see you in real life without the Max Headroom filter on.
Yeah.
What? Your facial tick has really gone away. Wow.
I never thought about that Max Headroom really was 30 years ahead or 40 years ahead of its time, 30 years. That it really is like a Zoom call.
Talking head in a box.
Hi. How is everybody doing?
I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting off now. It's frozen.
Yeah. Didn't they make a movie? They made a Max Headroom movie, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, I think it was the longer version of the pilot episode. It was a show. It became a show. I think it started off as an ad campaigin. It was
for what? Pepsi?
For Coke. It was a Coca-Cola ad man. And then it got so popular that they created a TV show, and I think the movie was just the first pilot, like the longer version of the pilot strung together. But that was the actor Matt Frewer. I don't know if you remember him from many things he did. He was the neighbor in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Kind of played like the rednecky neighbor with like the hat and the beer, crushing beer cans.
Okay. Yeah, he was like a big character actor. Right?
Yeah, he did a lot. He was kind of the nerdy guy. Like there was a theory that he was basically like Jim Carrey before Jim Carrey. A lot of the like Jim Carrey-isms are alrighty then, and like all of Ace Ventura stuff. That he was kind of doing things like that.
Tall, skinny, white guy, weirdo. Like,
well, how are you doing? Okay.
Uncomfortable neighbor
with the big voice and everything. Yeah, but yeah, Jim Frewer was but he had a lot of work, but I don't think he never got Jim Carrey big.
No, no one did.
But Max Headroom big too. Have you seen there's it's like it's almost like Urban Dictionary kind of thing, or not Urban Dictionary, what is it called? Like suburban what do you call myths? What do you call those?
Lore.
Things? Yeah.
Lore.
it's somewhere in the 80s in like the Midwest. There was somebody that cut into the local TV feed with those Max Headroom videos. And it's not the real Max Headroom, but it's like this weird made up like like a Max Headroom mask onto somebody, but they really cut into it, and it has like a corrugated iron like background that's kind of moving all weird. It looks like a 80s video art piece.
I do remember
very
this.
sort of like like a renegade sort of thing.
Oh, I love the olden days.
It's kind of QAnon or something, or some type of V for Vendetta or something.
Yeah.
But it was based on the Max.
But just some dumb kids that were like, oh my God, you guys, I mean, it must have been easy enough to do that back then. If you would just have to know somebody at the station. It'd be so hard to.
I don't know.
I feel like everything now,
everything
now is so easy to track.
Oh, right.
Because it's digital.
Find an IP address, or you'd find out who's doing it.
Yeah. Like back then, I mean, I remember even when we had our pirate radio station in LA that, we had you just made like a couple $100 and you could make your own receiver or whatever. It wouldn't a transmitter. And you put a metal, like copper tubing, metal antenna on your roof and run it to a computer. And then you could just transmit, and it was that easy. And then every once in a while you'd accidentally jump onto someone else's,
radio wave. Yeah, but didn't feel like
89.3 or something. And then all of a sudden, you jump on something else. And then and it was during the Iraq War, and the FCC actually had to try to triangulate the signal.
We're triangulating the signal. We're gonna crack the mainframe.
And they had to do 3 different trucks, and they had to like triangulate the signal, and then they triangulated it to a house that we had that the antenna was on. And it was on the roof of
airwaves.
Yeah, and it was on the roof. It ended up being on the roof of a somewhat famous person's house, and they made a deal not
to
bust them, but also to go like, we don't want this to go any farther. But they had to. It was a whole thing. So then we would we have multiple computers around. So then we would just move the antenna to every week we'd move the antenna to a different house. Because it would take them like a week to try to triangulate it and all that kind of stuff. And, that's a lot of the FCC putting a lot into whatever. The fact that the FCC was actually coming after us was amazing to us. And then we were just like, oh my God, are you kidding?
Does anybody care now? That's my thing now. Is anything happening on like terrestrial radio that's even profitable enough?
No, which I feel like it would be maybe a good time to start a pirate radio show in a city where you have a lot of, because you have to be able to see for FM signal, you have to be able to see the antenna for the most part for the amount of frequency that you could put out from like a home thing. You pretty much have to see the antenna pretty close. So, but we had it was in the base of the Hollywood Hills, so it was like 3 blocks up above Franklin.
And you just plug it in?
You just plugged it in, so it was running out of the audio from a computer. And then we had like an internet radio station that was constantly had shows on it, Kill Radio. And then that was being pumped out of a computer. But you could get it on any computer anywhere online. So we would just some other people,
someone else would move it.
Not me.
Yeah.
But that some other people unnamed would move it from roof. And then every time they'd be like, oh, we feel like some people are starting to get phone calls and they just take it down and move it. And then we had 3 different antennas around the city or around on different houses.
Off and on.
And so you just turn one of them off, and then 3 miles down the road up on another hill, they would just turn theirs on and then keep going.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But there was no money in
it.
There wasn't like you guys were charging
No.
anything. Yeah. So
it was a couple, the actual equipment was a couple $100. The whole idea originally that we did, and we actually did the only tour that Sabertooth Tiger did up the coast, was to do shows. And we met people, we knew people in like San Francisco, and then up in Portland, and then in Humboldt County. And I feel like there was one other place. We might have actually been Oakland and San Francisco. I don't remember, but we actually had 4 transmitters with the antennas, and then we dropped them off to all these people. And then the idea was that they were going to put the transmitters on their roofs, and then they could transmit Kill Radio, but on pirate it. And then it just, after that, you're like, oh, you probably need money to have someone to kind of like to run this thing and make sure that they're all working and stuff. And so who knows what happened to them now, but yeah, it was fun. We were kids. We were like 28. I was 28, maybe 29.
And then within like 6 years, everyone just started a blog, and then or they had a Tumblr page.
Yeah.
And it was,
Well, but that's the funny thing. So then everything went online, and then that was before, really Kill Radio, I think, was has to be one of the first online radio stations. It was like 2003 or something. It was right when Real Player came out, and you could stream on computers. And so some people started, it was right after the Black Bloc, all the stuff happened in Seattle. What is it called? Battle of Seattle.
Oh, right. Yeah. People
2000
Starbucks.
Yeah. And but it was a bunch of people that were kind of more closely aligned with those groups politically, and then they started a thing called, oh my God, what was it called? It was like online kind of decentralized news network, Indie Media. Do you remember Indie Media?
Sounds right.
Yeah. Indie Media. And then some people from Indie Media started a radio station called Kill Radio. And then that ended up being this kind of fun radio station for a while. Good times.
And there was something called freedom of press. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard of this thing. This doesn't exist.
Yeah. Being scared that maybe every single thing that you say is recorded and can be used against you at later times and found.
What? No.
Welcome to our recorded radio show.
Oh Lord. The interview with Sebastian Blanck was nice last week.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I don't think he didn't say he wanted to kill Trump or anything, so that was good.
No. No, you can't say that.
No, nobody would ever say that. Those are terrible things to say.
But that it was awesome because I'm realizing I was going back through and trying to see if I have actually ever saw Black Dice live, and I don't think I did. I don't think I ever saw them live.
Oh man.
Hearing all the stories and then I was looking back, and I went on YouTube to watch like some live Black Dice performances, and like got started like listening to a bunch of music, and yeah, it's great. I love hearing about it first and then going back and going, wait, let me do some internet research. Look at 20 years ago.
I remember the story that I had always heard was that Eric, who was the singer, and he's really small, and so I think we talked about him like in the Bjorn and like Hisham episodes too, but Eric was like smaller and younger, but he like picked up like the opening band's like kick drum and just like threw it through a window. Like as soon as like Black Dice started their set,
just right away,
and then everyone just like try to kick his ass, and it was just like the end of the show. So it was like the beginning and end of the show. So it was these types of like almost performance art, sort of violent, noise, aggressive. I think there was, it was a time and place. It's hard to even put into context now too. I think, akin to things like, pirate radio and independent media or these types, it was just, the world is so different. The context that would apply, like even as art, like aggression as art, I think coming out of like the 90s and, whatever passed as like, protest or, I don't know, art had such this like kind of like cork sniffing sort of, wine and cheese sort of thing to it all. And I think it always
Yeah.
kind of does, but there was this kind of feeling coming out of this like very aggressive, like performance art, very different than like a G.G. Allen type of thing, but also maybe not that different either. You know what I mean? Where there's this kind of idea of that, like somehow there was like a body harm sort of, how do you say it? Like, this idea of just being willing to use your body in your art in that kind of way. And I think that's kind of, that sort of carried through into the music world as well. Just kind of throwing yourself on the floor.
Yeah.
And then just kind of flailing around as art.
Yeah.
And
yeah, totally. And I thought it was interesting when he was talking about, especially coming out of RISD and that whole scene, when a lot of people were doing way more visually artistic kind of masks and craziness and lights and all this stuff, and that he was interested in looking kind of like nerdy indie rockers.
Yes.
But then acting like absolute lunatics on stage and being very like going from like boring and frail to violent.
Yeah.
And only violent because you're playing music. And then when you're done, you're then back to being like these frail kind of indie rock little like skinny kids. And I do like that and that made so much sense to me too, of like, oh yeah, this is what, because when I first moved to LA in 2000, I knew nothing about like these kind of scenes. Like I was coming from Portland, where it was very like, there were heavy bands, but it was heavy music. It was like that desert rock kind of heavy, almost like Black Sabbath.
Sure. Yeah.
Like heavy, or metal, like Melvins or something, like there was heavy stuff, but I wasn't coming from this kind of, when I got to LA and then you hear of bands like The Locust and this kind of power violence, or even the, like, I mean, I don't know, any of those scenes where these little skinny like kids are like kicking people in the face. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even know. I don't know.
Why is this happening?
I have no like anything that's telling me what is going on here, or even how to act, or even how to like understand where this is even coming from. So even to hear him talking about the like looking as kind of normal as possible, and then acting, like having kind of an act, and then going back to, like really did makes it's like, yeah, like you're saying, it's a performance piece.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not like a metal kid who then gets off and is still got the long hair and the leather jacket. And you're like, what's up? Like I live metal, I die metal, I play metal. And like,
or
like, no,
punk,
we're doing some insane thing
like
to get all of this.
And patches and studs and things. Yeah.
Totally. And we're like getting some weird aggression out. And then we're like, just going to go back to life. Life is, we can go back to the coffee shop.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it probably has something to do with, like masculinity and post hardcore, but also a reaction to like the soft emo side of things in the 90s and indie rock. I'm sure there was a greater sort of cultural dialogue going on around these art performances or this kind of thing also. But, I think knowing even at the time, like, this is not a sustainable musical career. These were these types of like almost, childish outbursts in ways that I think really woke up a sort of, intellectualized or emotionally centered, art scene, where they were now like, oh, well, now I can't really think because this guy's, is just exploded a bottle of champagne, or the beer can just exploded, and everything just went nuts, and then lights are out, lights are back on, and the whole thing just turned into a wrestling match, or something. Now these people have masks on, and now everything's loud and it's going crazy. Yeah. So you don't really think, you're just kind of feeling there was a type of like tactile, fight or flight sort of response to some of these early performances that I'm assuming if somebody was writing about it or had a better, sort of handle on the language of art, they would be able to express it better. I'm kind of crudely doing it just from my own sort of what I've witnessed and then what I'd heard. I think that's the other thing that was funny was, really pre-social media, but really the infancy of like online culture, internet, like word spread, you know, and this kind of way, like, holy shit, have you heard about Black Dice? This is a crazy band, Black Dice. There was this thing, you know, if you were in those types of circles or, you know, communities.
But no one had video cameras and no one was like, so it's like you'd rarely see
like Lightning Bolt, Black Dice, you know, you'd hear of these things, but then Black Dice would tour with Animal Collective. I think it was the first time I saw them.
Okay.
When they had toured there, or they had done some shows. And it was a very sort of like strange dichotomy between the two bands. And at that point, when they were doing those tours, it had turned into this very abstracted noise performance rather than this physical sort of, you know, explosions, this kind of thing. So it was a different kind of way. But I think, there was a difference between those two bands, and in a way there's almost this like violent juxtaposition in some ways too, you know, where they're like Black Dice kind of had this like full on like noise, formlessness, you know, sort of abstraction, and then Animal Collective had part of that, but then there was also this the inkling of Beach Boys, you know, sort of harmonies and song structures. There was another side to that, and but to see them all sort of operating within the same world, it sort of created this interesting effect, I think.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think too that that there is a lot of being like cathartic. It's just like, exactly. and even that, like when we go watch like our friends' kids' bands play here, and they're like hardcore bands and power violence kind of stuff, and you're watching all these kids that it's so crazy and kicking and jumping and whatever, the whole thing. And then afterwards, everyone's hugging and like, oh my God, you guys are so great. You know, I love you. I love you guys. I love you too. This is amazing. Oh my God, let's go outside. I'm so hot. You know, whatever. It's not like you get this like, oh yeah, I think maybe we hold a lot in, and maybe we need to get it out in like violent ways, but maybe trying to be violent, but not hurting everybody. And then we all feel good. It's great.
I mean, this is the same Y2K culture that, you know, created, you know, films like Fight Club, you know, that I think probably addressed things in similar types of ways. We're tapping into some like mundane zeitgeist that isn't necessarily relevant to, you know, today's culture, and that kind of way almost probably seems absurd and gross.
Well,
but you know, there was a different kind of culture at the time.
Well, and I think what a lot of places have and still do now, I guess, too, is like, you know, sports will do that too.
Sure,
it's like
where
you get out and play. I mean, we talk to our kids all the time, and they're like, oh my God, the defenders are so mean. They were like telling me to F off, and they were like telling me to F off and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, it's sports. And so like when you're out on the field for like an hour and the whistle blows, the rules the real world rules don't apply anymore.
Yeah, now we've shifted into a different.
This is where it's okay.
Norms.
Yeah, this is where it's okay to be like, you can be kind of a horrible person for a little while because you're trying to win.
There's a thing called the shadow self. So if we're going to get Young spoke of it.
And it doesn't mean that you are trying to hurt anybody, and it doesn't mean you're trying to do, but you like, especially if you want to play sports as you grow older, part of it is like people try to get into your head and they try to get you mad. And then if you get mad and you lose your cool, then you're going to get the foul, you know, all these things are like, but then once the whistle blows, you don't get to act like that anymore. Like, cause this is just where you get to get out all of those like weird animal instincts that are inside of all of us that are just like the rage, and then you walk away and you go, I feel better.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I don't know. I was so mad an hour ago, and now I'm like, where do you want to go eat?
It satisfies that bloodlust, you know.
Yeah, totally.
You limp away. Everybody touches their butts, touches each other's butts, and everyone goes home, gets a pizza.
Yeah, it's okay to spank each other. It's fine. This for some reason has been okayed by culture.
Yeah. I think you're totally tapping into something. I took our 11-year-old to the Smell yesterday to see the Lindas play.
How was it?
And it was great. And he got to sort of go through the pit. He was helping. He was volunteering at the snack bar. He likes kind of like hanging there and like helping people get waters and whatever.
I love it.
And I think he gets the kickback. Kind of, he gets, you know, if you work the snack bar, you get some some
snacks.
Sour Patch Kids or whatever, too. So he does.
It's worth it.
And I just catch up with Jim by the door. I just hang out with Jim while he works, with large quotes around it. So, he'd been asking me about it for a while because he'd done it once and wanted to do it again. And so we saw Linda, and I figured Linda's show would be good because it'd be people, kind of closer to his age rather than a bunch of older noise people.
Grandparents.
Yeah. It was but it was fun. It was great. Yeah. But when Linda started, I saw Eloise, bass player, kind of out, go to her dad, sign that they needed some waters, for the stage. Yeah. And so I was like, saw it. I'm like, okay, Ryder, go grab, 6 bottles of water. And so he did it. And I was like, okay, now we got to follow me. We'll get through the crowd. And it was like a sold out show at the Smell, which is, I don't know, 200 people. I don't know, whatever it is. But we had to make our way through the crowd, and then there was a mosh pit going, and I saw him stop. I was like, "Oh, don't stop at the mosh pit!" I kind of pulled him through, and again, but it's very polite mosh pits. I'm trying to think of the
pogo mosh pit.
I mean, no, people are doing the slow roll, the arms out, kind of thing, but pushing and just jumping around, But it's but it was just so funny to see his eyes like, whoa, that was intense. Yeah. And then we got the waters for him. And then we ended up just going out the back and coming back around just because it was too crazy. But then later he saw people crowd surfing and jumping off the stage and, just the whole thing. I was like, oh, this is good. 11 years old. That's a good time to surf. But again, it's getting out that, form of, polite aggression. Yeah. These kinds of things you're pushing off of each other, kind of that sea of sweatiness, and it's a big part
also just being in that energy. Who was it that talked about that talked about being at a show is a religious experience. It's that it is that okay, someone is singing a song, and if you know the song, you're singing it back. And it's a lot of kind of call and response. And then you're also responding by moving your body with all these other people. And you're giving your energy up to the show, the stage, and the stage is giving its energy back to you. And it's very it's I think what people do.
It's like community affirmation. Here we are. This is our 100%. Community. This is what we believe. Oh, it was Seth, I think, talking about, hardcore and punk, from the DC side of things.
Totally. That's who it was.
That it's gospel, that it's him, that the lyrics to these songs don't even belong to the band as much as they belong to the culture or to the people singing them back. So it doesn't matter I think he was singing them. Anybody could sing this gospel song in a way.
Yeah. It becomes part of the canon of the culture, and then you all kind of know the same words to this thing, and you can all sing along. And I think it was him, and he was talking to Ian Mackay, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
Ian was telling him that
different versions of Black Flag. What does even matter who the singer is or who's playing the songs? It's when you go to church, it's but that's not God up there singing. It's but it's close enough. This is the version of God you got for here today.
Yes. Well, he told me he's God, so I gave him all my money.
Have you seen? Yeah. You seen all the gold the guy's wearing? He's got to be affiliated with some higher power. You can't wear that much gold and not be related to God, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. But Sebastian was so cool. Then even getting into the portraiture and the paintings and stuff. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the website that he has. But it's incredible. It's really beautiful portraiture. I think he made it a point to sort of focus on that in a way that it belies some larger. I don't know how you say the oeuvre, the body of work, you know what I mean, where it's okay, of course this holds meaning. Here I pulled it up on their screen here, but a lot of sun hats, but I think it's just as much about abstraction as it is about the person itself. There's a certain kind of flattening and color choice and shade in ways I think work as almost like mosaic or some type.
And repeating subject matter,
right?
Almost like a real singular study of. Oh yeah, this is amazing. Even the dots on the faces.
Yeah, and you can almost sort of see over the work from 2018 to now 2005, where it sort of dominates the entire, sort of collection of work that he shows on the page.
Yeah.
where it went from like, oh, it's an idea, like a little bit, but then you move. I guess that's sort of how artists work, right? I mean, you sort of look at people's periods of time and, what's of interest.
Going from summer to winter to the colors and, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, and one thing that I loved too, when he was talking about Black Dice and being in there and then going on tour and all this and him saying like, yeah, after a couple of weeks, I just realized I missed being in the studio. Like as much as I wanted to be out and playing and going crazy and the fun of it all, that was like, yeah, I needed to paint. And for whatever reason, like for not even for a specific reason, just like, I just needed to paint and I needed to be in there and do that. And it's actually what I was talking to my friend Jared about at the party was that, like even as being a photographer, so often I missed being at home. I just like being at home. Like as much as fun as it would be, or like, oh, I'm on tour. And like after like a week, I was like, ugh, this is fun and everything, but I really want to be at home. I like being at home. I like painting. I like sitting in the studio and working on stuff and being thoughtful and just kind of being by myself and all of that stuff. So when he was talking about that, like really as much as he loved playing and being out on the road and everything, that like missing the studio was a really big thing. And you forget how cathartic it can be to just be like making something or building something or thinking about making something, or like that concentration that it takes to like, okay, I'm in it. I'm, even if it's for like 30 minutes, I'm like in this place all by myself, making a thing that I think someday will be useful to either me or someone else, or it will just, it's working its way towards something. And I don't even know what that thing is, but that there's like I don't know, for me, that there's a real calm in that I don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like such a extravagance, especially having kids and working and trying to do things. There's that ability, just like, oh, I have a 4-hour window, and I'm just gonna think of music, or I'm just gonna play, or I'm just gonna write, or I'm just gonna record. I'm just gonna let these ideas sort of fall out of me, and have this kind of feedback sort of ability to kind of listen back to what I do, but now then respond to that and have this dialogue within a track and build up a thing. It's, oh my God. Yeah. That's a beautiful amount of time to be able to have.
Yeah.
But
totally.
yeah. But even the thing, I think touring and just in general living life, like I'm sure this has been talked about and it's old news for most people, but the concept of like a social battery, I was like, oh, that's a great way of talking about it. Like I have a social battery, and especially from, when I'd be on the road or touring or doing a lot of stuff. It's like, I never gave myself the grace of just being like, I'm done talking now. I'm going to walk away. I was just, you just have to stick with it and just grind it out. You just really get into the slog of like, oh, my social ability to talk and do things has worn out like 4 days ago, but I'm still here. Like now that you become a strange passive aggressive, person, I think, which probably drives a lot of bands and people and relationships just into like the dirt. But just that idea of like, oh, I just need to go reset. I need to be alone for a little while. I just want to like, not talk for a few hours. And then guess what? I'm going to come back and be very pleasant and very nice. But to have that kind of,
I'm just going to,
I
need to go sit in a chair in the, just away somewhere else. And I'm just going to like close my eyes for a second.
Yeah. Or even if you just look at your phone or just have that reset kind of moment of just like, okay, I'm good. I'm back.
Sure.
Hello. I can help you. What is your purpose? How can I help you?
Well, and I think that probably, I mean, I know this has been talked about a million times, but this has got to be where the drinking and alcohol or drinking and drugs and,
and
smoking and everything else comes with on the road, because you have all of that. You're like, okay, I'm ramping up for this exciting 1 hour. Like there's going to be 1 hour of an excitement every day.
There's multiple people all focused on this 1 hour of your life, for months at a time.
And for like, yeah, for 1 month, every day, there's going to be 1 hour of excitement. And then 23 hours of trying to get to the next place where there's 1 hour of excitement.
Yeah.
And then you get, I mean, I even when I was just doing those, like, shooting those MySpace secret shows, and we would go and we'd fly into a place, and then we'd get there in the morning, and then we'd have to set up all the photo stuff, and Isaac and Trevor would have to set up all the MySpace stuff and banners and all these things. And then you're like, okay, well, it's 4:00 and the show's at 9.
Yep.
What do you want to do? I don't know. Let's have a beer. You know, let's go.
The loudest crack of the beer that you ever hear. Like, oh no, it starts here.
Go grab dinner and have a drink, and then you're like, oh, this is great. And then you come back to the venue, and you're like, oh, please grab another beer. Oh, good, grab another beer. And then
it's only 6 o'clock.
Yeah, the show hasn't even started yet, and you're like,
we're still 3 hours away from the show happening.
When is this thing going? Oh, when? And then I'm like, yeah, if that was my life, it's like after years of that. I know people get used to it, and also there's a certain personality that absolutely loves that 100%. Can't wait to get back on the road always, and I admire that as well.
I think if I didn't have kids, I would definitely be able to do it longer. I think there's something about, really at the end of the day, just missing little guys, and you're just a whole different. You're just, you whatever ego thrill or whatever it is you get from strangers. Yeah. Somehow these two people who are your flesh and blood, who are your family, somehow them just farting on you means a lot more than than a room full of strangers screaming at you. So you're like, okay, I got to be there. You can't get the fart on dad thing over FaceTime from the Holiday Inn Express, or from a gas station while you're driving in the middle of the day. It just doesn't somehow just doesn't connect. Yeah,
1 6-year-old like yelling "Dad" when you get home, like when you open the door when you get home, is better than a whole audience like yelling for you when you start the first riff.
I think so. But again, it's everybody's got to figure their own thing out. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's a unique proposition for anybody, and if you're fortunate enough to, to have that ability to tour and do all those things, and you can bring your kids, or you can make a life, this nomadic kind of life. I think that's fun. That's a great thing. Everybody, but there's so many variables with any sort of situation like that.
Oh my God, I know.
Monetary, mental, emotional, all kinds of things that, I would hate to not have had a family and then resented the road in that kind of way. Like, well, I can't have kids. I got to go, play this festival. I got, I got all my badges stacked up here. I'm going to go do this. But in the same way too, but if that's your thing, I don't have a family and I want to go fucking stack up badges and go play every festival I can. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? You
Please do it.
All by all means.
Absolutely.
You don't need my permission to do it.
Yeah.
I just think everybody's got those experiences. But I think, eventually, it's hard, especially in the beginning. I think that it takes a lot of energy, if not more energy, to do it for no money and for no audiences. I think that's sort of where Sebastian was at with in the Black Dice world of stuff of this is amazing. This is everything I want. But at some point, I have other interests, and I really there's only so much blood, sweat, and tears you can give. But he's been really prolific in his documenting it, and his sort of, I think there's definitely a part of him that still lives in that world in a huge way. Which was great. Which was nice to talk to him about it.
Well, it's interesting when he was talking about there's all this crazy footage that we need to put together about the whole RISD scene. I think that would be amazing. I mean, right? I think it is one of those. I think there's there's definitely the moment. I know I've talked about this a billion times, but in LA, there was a weird moment of your guys's stage at the Smell, but then also in LA, there was so many bands in that moment that when we were playing and the Mean Reds and Wires on Fire and the Fuse and you guys and the whole Smell scene and the Bronx and all of this, for, I don't know, a couple years, that it was there were 10 shows a night. You know, it seemed like
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't know, which one are you going to go to tonight? Because there's like, and at that time, like the New York bands were coming in and playing, and the yeahs and the, you know, whatever. It was just like there was this weird like LA New York thing happening at the same time, and I do think that it is a weird one, the LA thing. Other than you guys, and then the Bronx are still playing, but it kind of like everybody else is like, yeah, one record and then went away.
It's
But
fucking hard.
But
It's
it was,
fucking hard to do.
but it was like a really vibrant local scene. Like in all those, I know you've talked about this a million times. Like every band also had 3 other bands.
Oh yeah, that's the fun part.
You know,
yeah,
like,
for sure.
and all the people would play together for 1 or 2 shows. Or, I mean, we played in like the backyard. We played in like someone's backyard in like El Monte.
Yep.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and then Lewis had like a show, or his friend had a show, and the Mean Reds played outside the pool at 4th of July, and we were driving home through the insanity of fireworks
and cacophony.
People like shooting fireworks at your car and over your car, and we're like trying to make it through, and you know, and their aunt is like selling beer out of the window of the kids' bedroom out into the back. You know, it's just like, oh my God, this is, and the bands that would play. I mean, there were all those bands in Long Beach too. I don't know their names right now.
Yeah.
And then the LA
Crystal
record.
Antlers.
Crystal Antlers were amazing. The LA record was happening. With Sean was doing, and Dan
Chris
was
Ziegler.
taking all. Yes, Chris Ziegler and Dan Monick was taking all the cover photos for it. I mean, it was just like there was so much in this. And if we probably went back, that was probably like 4 years of like the really heavy, like everything happening at 1,000 miles an hour.
But I think it's all happening still though too. I mean, it's again, maybe, we're like, you know what I mean? There's some type of, I don't know, Goonies or Peter Pan effect of it. Like, totally. but I don't see it now. It's like, well, your eyes have grown too old where you can't 100%. See the things that are happening. But no, I'm watching what's going on. Like, no, but you don't see the magic through it because you don't have those, like, you know, 18 to 25-year-old eyes to just see the things. And I mean, cause I hear about it all the time, and I hear friends, kids that are playing in these bands, or, you know, that's kind of where it's at. And like, oh yeah, no, they play 10 shows a week and they get 200 people to show up to this pizzeria and just goes nuts. Yeah. You know, they're playing like someone's got a skateboard shop, you know, deep in the valley. And it's just, all these kids just show up out of the woodwork, and it's insane. And it's insane for like 2 hours. And then everyone goes on about their life. You know, like how does this happen? But what seems even cooler is that these kids are even younger. It seems like there's a whole other kind of like layer of this sort of thing where like the Linda Lindas and like, you know, high school bands and stuff. It's really like, the high school bands, but they get out of the garage. They make records. They take credit cards at the merch table. Yeah. I saw the merch table last night, and it was very, very professional. Yeah, it was so amazing. Funny. Yeah, the moms from the Linda Lindas are probably the least professional merch people there, and they've I think they're used to just having the arenas sell their merch. They don't have to really do it. But all the kids stuff was like, it's like $52 like high quality thick hoodies. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Good for you guys. This is great.
Crazy. It's amazing. Yeah, I love it. But I guess
it's a whole other world that I just, you know what I mean? I try to peek at, I try to keep an eye on, and from one way or another that feels organic and natural and not predatory or some kind of weird way. Yeah. I'm hyper aware of my of you know, how much I don't fit in to
you wear your shirt that's like, don't worry guys, I used to be in a band that played here.
I'm not a narc. I'm not a narc.
I'm not a narc. Yeah. I mean, it's fun. I love listening to all the RISD interviews.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. Because I think I'm still fascinated. It's another one of those. I think through this, you know, series of interviews I'm able to do through the podcast, I think a lot of my, like, you know, teenage and early 20s sort of fascinations and respect and almost like dream, like casting in weird ways of like, oh, like that was the cool thing. That was the thing. Those are the people I looked up to. Those are my heroes. Totally. You know, I think I definitely am using this podcast, not so subtly as a way to, you know, to talk to people and talk about things that I was just like horribly obsessed with and fascinated by, you know, at those early ages.
But I think that's what keeps all of these things alive. And it also is, I mean, it's it really is like the nerd factor that keeps things always alive. It's like the nerds who collected every single record always and know about all the vinyl and all the this and that. They're the ones that find that like Sugarman record or whatever that are like, we got to find this guy, whatever. And it makes this whole, it like starts this story arc that you never knew was even existed. And even talking to all these guys that, or from the RISD scene and all that, like, who knows? It really may spark something in someone to go like, you know what, I should get that footage together. We should go look at that and whatever. And then maybe, because I would love that, like even hearing all of them and knowing how well documented that scene was, because they were all weirdo artists, graphic designer, painter, photographer, filmer, skateboarder nerds, that like were just involved, like everything was art, it seems, I mean, especially talking to Brian and all those guys. We need
something. Do you know this Ringer podcast network?
No.
What is it? Phil, I forget the guy who does it, but it's like sports based. It's like people that grew up like sports writers, that like, came out of ESPN and these things, but now they have like cultural podcasts, but they do these. They also have like 30 for 30, those like sports documentaries and things. I think it all kind of has been born out of this this media sort of world that these guys have created. But they did one on yacht rock. It was Bill Simmons. That's the guy who does it all. Yeah, he's podcast. Shout out to Bill Simmons, Ringer Network. But he did one on the yacht rock and stuff. So it's like almost like we need the DIY version of that. Like these guys have contracts with HBO and ESPN or whoever that they've come out of a larger corporate media world. So it's not surprising they kind of know how to interface with that in that kind of way. But I think it would be a fun sort of way if we just do 30 for 30 on like different bands and scenes and stuff, it's like quick little, like, whatever, a 30-minute, episode about stuff of things. And there's enough things out there. I don't know if the audience is there. I don't think we have like the sports audience. From what I can tell is fairly large in America.
Massive. Yeah.
so small bite-sized media clips probably do well. But if there was the more independent punk version of that.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And I do think that these scenes, I think a lot of times, especially like the RISD scene or those scenes that are less well known, but influence so many people, it's like Melvins.
Oh my
it
God,
always comes back to Melvins.
Sure.
It's like Melvins probably influenced every single Seattle band more than any other band. And they just were the band that kind of flew under the radar the whole time. And we're like, yeah, we're fine. We're fine doing our thing. Like, we're going to make our music as whatever we're going to make, and we're not going to make any apologies, and we're not going to change for anybody. And we're just going to keep playing like 300 to 1,500 seat venues forever.
And guess what? 300 days a year. Yeah.
Oh, and 300 days a year. And we're going to like, let's only play small towns. I remember when my friend Jeff was working with them, and he was like, yeah, they did like the last tour that he worked with them for a while was like, they decided I don't remember what the story was, but they decided they wanted to only play towns of like, that they had never played before and that had less than a certain population or something. And he was like, okay, I think this is my last one for a while. He's like, this is a lot, you guys. This is like, we're doing a lot of work. But it's because they get to do whatever they want. They're like, we're the Melvins. Let's do an acoustic tour.
Yeah.
Even, and the acoustic Melvins are going to open up for the heavy Melvins. Okay.
I think they kept the focus always on, it was about the show, the touring. Totally. As long as they had, as long as they were selling tickets to a thing, then it was working.
Yeah.
I think that never really became, I think there was, not to say there wasn't conceptual albums. Of course there were conceptual albums. There was the bigger albums and stuff, but I think it definitely was always in service of the tour, because I think that's where they made money.
Yeah.
And they always just had that eye on the prize version of that.
It was definitely a smart business person for sure.
Seems like it, or at least they seem to know that if you stop playing, you stop getting paid. If you stop playing live, then you're not getting paid. So.
And like we can't sit here and wait for the sales of pieces of plastic to come in.
Yeah.
Like
go out
like
there,
you can't
play
you
shows.
can't. Yeah, and even like selling CDs or anything like that, it's like, well, we're making money because you can mark up plastic. Well, once you don't sell plastic anymore, like how are we going to make any money if you're not
Still
touring?
the live show. Yeah, as long as you're playing live, you can get paid.
And as long as they keep the tickets low enough so they can always sell out, and we'll be good. We'll make up the extra on the next tour. I don't know. I always just love the way that they operate in that sense of just being like a working band, like a blue collar kind of working band that is always working.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. God bless them. Long live the Melvins.
God bless the Melvins. Or is it just Melvins? I think it's just Melvins.
Yeah. But I guess in the wave of I think grammar rules can take precedence.
Either way.
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right. Well, this is fun. Yeah, we'll have another one up on Thursday. I'll see you next week. I'm going to try to go catch the end of the Oscars. Or I watched the Oscars last night.
Oh yeah,
I watched the end of the Oscars last night. It was very exciting.
Amazing.
All of those things happened.
Boy, what a bunch of winners!
Who'd have predicted all those stars would show up and be in one place at one time?
I was like,
they all made jokes and everyone's talking about them today. Isn't it amazing? Listen to all those jokes.
How did they know that it was going to happen that night? They just all got tickets. It's crazy.
They figured it out. They wore dresses and suits, and somebody did something that everyone's going to talk about. And man,
it's very politically controversial what happened last night, Randy.
Well, hey,
a lot of politics.
That's what people are saying. But as long as they're saying it, then it's good. Yeah. Someone had to say it. You never know.
This is life. It's a different day today than it was yesterday. That's for sure.
Oh no! I hope something terrible doesn't happen. Everyone's glibly talking about, like, oh no, Will Smith shot the entire audience. God. Lord, it was a massacre.
I mean, all that stuff. It was also very sad, and I feel horrible for everyone.
Whichever version of events happened.
You're gonna have to see you're gonna have to edit this part out. We'll see in the next couple hours. I mean, they won't know if it got edited out.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll see you.
All right, later.